Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Thomas Braun with us. Thomas is a pretty cool guy. He's the CEO of Eat Robotics. He's also the CEO of his own law firm, futuristic thinking individual, and also client of mine. So eager to jump right in today. Thomas, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Okay, well, first of all, happy Sherlock Holmes Day. I don't know if you noticed that on Google.
No.
May 22nd is Sherlock Holmes Day, so who knew? Um, yeah, so anyway, I'm by training, I'm a lawyer, and I've been a business lawyer since 1997. And I'm a member of the California and the British Columbia bars. And we're planning to talk today about Eat Robotics, which is a fast food restaurant automation company that I started. And it's interesting because it's the idea for it kind of came out of my law practice in a way. So one of the things I do is crowdfunding. In the United States, crowdfunding is a pretty big deal. A lot of money is being raised. You can raise up to 5 million US dollars just with audited financial statements. You don't have to file a prospectus. Okay. So the costs are very low, very, very low compared to, say, going public or a number of other things you can do. And companies have been pretty successful with it. The two most successful ones are called Boxable and probably Miso Robotics is second. Boxable makes a little casita, miniature house, prefabricated. They have 140,000 deposits on these houses. And they're in the process of going public on NASDAQ now with a market cap over $3 billion. Not particularly innovative, but they did it, and it's what's interesting about their house is that it's prefabricated, costs $50,000, comes in the back of a truck and sort of unfolds. So it takes about 2 hours to put together.
Very cool. And Miso Robotics, they also launched on crowdfunding campaigns. Why is crowdfunding, other than like not filling the prospectus, why, in your opinion, is it more efficient than raising from a VC or a bank, let's say?
Well, it's not more efficient.
It's complementary,
you just have to get your money wherever you can. Actually, the most successful crowdfunding companies have both VC backing and retail investors. Okay, so those two groups, they feed off of each other because the retail investors have a perception that the venture capitalists have a greater ability to do due diligence on a company and some heightened skill level in the area of investing. And then on the other hand, the VCs know that eventually, if they're ever going to have an exit, this is going to have to be popular with the public and retail investors, right? So that's who they're going to sell their stock to if they do an IPO or something like that one day. Plus, the VCs don't have that much money. They do not have endless amounts of money. In some years, they've had no money, and it, depending on your sector, it goes up and down every year. Okay, so the VCs and the retail investors, they are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. So you have to think of the crowdfunding platform more just as a platform. It's like a web application for you to use to make it easy for you to raise money. And you've got, in addition to that 5 million that you can raise under regulation CF, you can still raise as much money as you want from accredited investors under Reg D Rule 506.
Right. And with Eat Robotics, why did you choose the fast food automation niche? Like I would have thought that, I don't know, McDonald's would be on par with automation since like 2010, but most of it is still not automated, right? Most of it
No.
still relies on humans. And yeah, tell me about the market size opportunity of that.
Yeah. Well, they've done a good job of automating their ordering system. So now when you go into these fast food restaurants, many of them, they have a kiosk and they make you order through the kiosk. Okay. So they've managed to replace the cashier and you tap with your card. It seems they still have to have one cash register for people who actually are paying in cash. They would like you to order on your telephone, but the problem is that I found with McDonald's is that you try and order on your telephone and you still have to tell them when you get there. So they don't pre-make your order necessarily and have it ready for you to pick up. It was, not as smooth as I thought it should be. But anyway, so I'm representing clients who are doing this crowdfunding. You do have to make up an offering memorandum. The leading platforms will help you with that, but you still need to have your own lawyer review it. They would like that. So I was just doing a little bit of research, looking at these top companies and trying to figure out, wow, what are they doing? Miso Robotics raised over $113 million. And it was all based on a robotic arm, sort of like a 6-axis robotic arm that held a spatula in its hand and flipped hamburgers. And actually, if I can share my screen with you, I can show you.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's let's see, Flippy. There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Whoa. That looks like space technology.
well, it seemed to me that it was a little bit over-engineered,
Yeah.
for one thing, but I don't know if you're getting this. There you go. There he flips it and then he waits. And then later on when he's taking them off the, let's see if we can find where he's taking one off here. And then he takes it off and he puts it on this tray. Okay.
Yeah.
Scrapes it clean. Now later on, what's interesting is you see when he's putting them on the tray, the Flippy robot actually kind of misses quite a few. There you see one there. So it's not perfect, right? Oh, there you missed 2 of them. Okay, so out of the 6 hamburgers, 4 of them made it onto the tray.
And how could they actually fix that? Is that like a machine vision? And yeah, how could he get like
Oh,
6 on 6?
exactly. It's, you know what? It's very complicated, and they've got a screen. I'm going to stop sharing here. Okay. So they've got a pretty complicated screen. They do have to have some kind of vision system and optical system. They're integrating, artificial intelligence into it to try and, recognize a hamburger patty, and it's so over-engineered. And so I thought, this is ridiculous, and it's going to be way too expensive, and it's not going to work. And a restaurant's kind of a greasy environment. At the end of the day, this thing's going to be covered in grease. You got to be able to clean it. You got to be able to maintain it. How are you going to fix it if it breaks down? Is it something that any kind of, reasonably skilled, mechanically skilled guy with a toolbox can fix? No. So, so I thought to myself, I could probably design something better myself, even though I'm not an engineer, I'm not in this business. It just seemed so absurd to me. And they raised over $100 million to build that. Now, since then, surprise, surprise, That product's been discontinued. Okay. So they've abandoned that, and they've decided to use their robotic arm, which they've also abandoned. So they originally built their own robotic arm. They've abandoned that. They now buy one that's probably manufactured in China, off the shelf, and they've developed an automatic deep frying system.
Yeah, you sent me that one.
Okay.
That's fascinating. So, and I checked the economics of that, right? Like, what is it to buy such a machine, and how much can I save if I own like one McDonald's franchise, for example?
Yeah. So, well, their model is to lease it for $5,000 a month.
Wow, that's very cheap. Very
And then
cheap.
they want people to buy two, perhaps, for a busy restaurant. But yeah, so the idea is that you're going to save some labor. The deep frying system they've made has a binning system that allows them to also do chicken nuggets, onion rings, different things besides French fries. Okay. Um, that's kind of a crowded space. There's also a Chinese company which is really good called Artosa, and maybe I can share that one for a second too.
So
Let's
let's say
see.
it costs me like 5K per month. How much employee time does it actually saves me? Like 10K at least?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. They will say that it does save you some employee time. This is the Artosa machine. The This is made by a Chinese company, and so it's similar to what Miso Robotics is doing. So you have a robotic arm that pulls something out of a deep fryer and then it dumps it in a tray. This one actually takes the French fries, puts them in a paper container, and it will also season them for you.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm really not sure how much labor exactly it's the automatic deep fryer that Miso has gone with is saving people. But basically, what I thought was, okay, well, look, we've got. I just thought, you don't need a robotic arm to flip these things. And you see how they had a guy standing there putting the patties on the griddle.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's not smart. Why don't you just have an automatic dispenser? And all you need is a spatula to flip things attached to, a much more simple device. So you'll see then once this flips all the hamburgers. So this is actually going faster than it would in real life. So it takes 4 minutes, say, to cook a hamburger, 2 minutes on each side. So it would take 2 minutes to rotate. It would flip it over, and then when it finishes the second rotation, it would then take it off, and you'll see it take it off now in a second here.
And did you thought up about that one or?
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, so I designed it on paper, with graph paper, because I thought to myself, well, I could probably make a better one. And then I thought, okay, well, then why don't you? Just as a personal challenge. And this was during COVID, right? So everything was very quiet, unfortunately, during the lockdown. There was no new business going on. People weren't incorporating new businesses. My clients weren't doing anything. So I sort of had nothing to do. And so I thought, okay, well, let's see. And so I grabbed a pad and I started sketching out my idea. And then I thought, well, this is a lot better than theirs. And then I hired a guy on Fiverr who is a CAD/CAM instructor. Computer aided design is what CAD stands for. And I asked him, well, can you take my hand drawings and make a CAD animation? And he did that. And I just wanted to see if everything would work, because you can kind of think of something in your mind, but you don't know, is it really going to work? Are you missing something? And so I wanted to figure out how this would actually function. So then I thought, well, this actually is kind of interesting. So then I hired 3 different people to do patent searches, and they gave me their results. And there's already been a patent which has since expired for a rotating grill or griddle, but nobody's flipping hamburgers or has an automatic dispenser or any of the other features that I've added to this. And so I thought, maybe this is patentable. So I hired a patent lawyer, and we filed a patent with the US Patent Office, right? And so that was now about 18 months ago. The patent's been published. So pretty soon we'll get the comments from the reviewer, and we'll have to defend our patent. But there are a number of features there that no one's ever patented before. So I think I have a good chance of getting a patent. Just as an example, with the Miso Robotics deep frying machine, the part that they've got a patent on is their binning system. You can't even patent the idea of a robotic arm pulling something out of a deep fryer. That doesn't work, right? So you really only need one claim, and you've got a patent. And to have a patent on the binning system is actually a big deal, because that means that, like that Chinese machine you saw, which actually frankly looks superior to the Miso Robotics one, they're just doing French fries. If they decided, well, we want to be able to not just do hamburgers and French fries for the in-out burger type restaurants, but we want to go a little bit upscale, like White Castle, and they have a bunch of different deep fried things on their menu. We want to be able to make all of these different items. They'd probably be violating the Miso Robotics binning system patent if they tried to do that. Now, that's assuming that patent gets issued. Last time I checked, it was also just a patent pending. So, at any rate, then I hired another engineer to make the rendering that you saw when I was sharing my screen, which looks very realistic.
Yeah.
And you get an idea. Now, you could hook that up to a little conveyor belt where it goes onto a bun. Instead of just being dropped into a bin, you could put it on a bun. You can have the dispensers above squirting on ketchup, mustard, relish, tomato, whatever you want. Put the top of the bun on it, put it into a container, and slides out the other end. So it's a complete hamburger, and hasn't been touched by human hands, basically, at that point, right? So
where does the cheese come in?
The cheese? Well, the cheese would come in as a dispenser. Like what can work is, if you have grated cheese in a dispenser, you could have it coming down onto the burger to make a cheeseburger. And the way I would do that is, as soon as it comes off the grill, you'd deposit the cheese on top. So you just have a hopper full of grated cheese, lets out the exact amount, drops onto the patty, right? And as the patty slides by, and the patty will still be hot enough then to melt that cheese. It's
a science.
Yeah, it's kind of hard no one's really been able to figure out a good way to put a slice of cheese automatically on a hamburger. What you saw the guy doing with the Miso Robotics flippy machine, where he stood there and he put the cheese on manually. Because the cheese comes, sort of like a stack of cheese and separated with these wax paper or whatever. You've got to peel one off, put it on. So what people do instead is they use a hopper design with grated cheese.
Interesting. And did you heard about Elon and Trump like firing the copyrights person in the US? Like I think that was last week.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later because yeah, Elon wants to do that to just like check all the have his AIs pretty much scrape all the patented properties and so forth. But yeah, more on that later. What's next for Eat Robotics? Like, when is the crowd funding campaign gonna go live? You know what do you have in the plans for Eat Robotics this year?
Yeah, so right now we have a reservation page in Canada. So one of the problems we have with raising capital in North America is that Canada does not cooperate with the United States. Not really, okay? They're trying to protect their own banks. So essentially our securities market in Canada is designed to favor the banks and the investment banks is what I'm talking about when I say banks. But most of the big investment banks are actually owned by the big banks in Canada. And so they just don't like competition. So everything has to be separate, including crowdfunding. So Canadians are not allowed to invest in a US crowdfunding on Start Engine, for example. And Americans are not allowed to invest on a Canadian crowdfunding platform. Now, there is a loophole, fortunately, which being a lawyer, that's my job, right? Figure these things out. I incorporated the company in the United States. So Eat Robotics is actually an American company, and I chose Wyoming. You might say, why Wyoming? Well, because they have no tax, they're pro-business, and it costs something like $26 to incorporate a company there. So I thought, these are my kind of people. That's where I'm going. And so we're on a crowdfunding platform in Canada called Equivesto, and we're at just before you launch your campaign, you can have something called a reservation page where people can just go on and say, yeah, I'm interested. I'd like to reserve $1,000, $500, whatever, right? And but that's only available to Canadian investors, and we can do that because our office is in Canada. So I'm located in Vancouver right now. Okay. The idea is to do a crowdfunding in Canada, see how much we can raise. Crowdfunding's a pretty hard slog in Canada, because we have just a smaller market. And it's, and when the Securities Commission in Canada decided to allow crowdfunding, they made it kind of difficult. They said, okay, well, you can do crowdfunding, but still you're going to be competing against the banks. And so we're going to make it a little bit difficult for you. So the investor has to open up an account with Equivesto, and it's the same as opening up a brokerage account. So they have to meet all of these know your client rules, anti-money laundering rules. Even though this person just wants to invest maybe $500 in some startup company, they have to fill out this pretty lengthy form, it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. Okay. And anyway, once we finish in Canada, we'll probably do what will end up being a bit of a small offering here in Canada, but we'll see what we can get. We'd like to then go onto a US platform, and we can go onto WeFunder, for example, will take us because we are a US company.
So paperwork and like these would be the next steps. Well, Thomas, thanks for being on today. Where can people find out more about you and Eat Robotics?
Well, eatrobotics.com. It's a great place to start, our website. And we've got a link there to the Equivesto site. If you are a Canadian resident, you can take a look at that. If you do decide to make a reservation, you don't do anything right now. You don't pay any money now. It's just an expression of interest. That's all. And then later on, you could even change your mind if you want. But, that's where I would start, is on our website.
Cool. So that was Thomas and Charles for another